The sun was a dying ember on the horizon as Jasper Wentworth made his way back to the old farmhouse. The crops, what was left of them, stretched out before him like a tired, rust-colored sea. The dust of the day's toil still clung to his boots, and the calloused hands that grasped the worn wooden gate seemed to belong to a man twice his age. As he opened the creaking gate, a figure emerged from the shadow of the porch. It was Emily, her silver hair aglint in the fading light. She moved with the quiet deliberation of one who has spent a lifetime navigating the worn boards of the old homestead. "Jasper, I've had a visitor," she said, her voice low and even. He paused, his boots scuffling against the dry earth. Who was it? A stranger, dressed in clothes I've never seen before. He came in a vehicle that didn't make any sense. Jasper's gaze narrowed, his eyes creasing at the corners. "What do you mean?" It was like nothing I've ever seen. No wheels, no engine. Just a glowing rectangle that seemed to hover above the ground. A shiver danced along Jasper's spine. In a world where the very fabric of reality seemed to be unraveling, where the laws of physics were more like suggestions than hard and fast rules, one learned to be wary of strange occurrences. "What did he want?" he asked, his hand instinctively reaching for the old rifle that leaned against the porch railing. "Information," Emily replied, her eyes clouding. "He asked about the anomaly." Jasper's grip on the railing tightened. The anomaly, that blasted, glowing hole in the sky that had appeared one night without warning. It was as if the very fabric of reality had torn itself asunder, spewing forth things, creatures, energies. Jasper didn't know what to call them, only that they had changed the world forever. "What did you tell him?" he asked, his voice low and even. Emily's eyes flicked towards the darkness gathering beyond the porch. "I told him the truth, that we don't know what it is or what it wants." Jasper's gaze followed hers, his heart heavy with foreboding. The anomaly loomed large in the darkness, a pulsing, malevolent presence that seemed to watch and wait. As the stars began to twinkle in the darkening sky, Jasper's thoughts turned to the stranger's words. "I'll need to speak with him," he said, his voice low and deliberate. Emily's eyes clouded. "He's gone, Jasper," disappeared as suddenly as he appeared. A faint hum, like the buzzing of a distant insect, began to vibrate through the air. The hairs on the back of Jasper's neck stirred as he turned towards the anomaly. It was growing brighter, the pulsing light taking on a rhythmic quality that seemed to synchronize with the hum. "Emily, get inside," he said, his voice low and urgent. But she stood frozen, her eyes fixed on the glow. "Jasper, look," she whispered. A shape, humanoid in form, was emerging from the anomaly's heart. The air seemed to ripple and distort around it, as if reality itself was bending to accommodate its presence. Jasper's hand instinctively went to the rifle, his finger hovering over the trigger. But as he gazed upon the creature, he felt a strange sense of recognition. It was as if he had seen it before, in dreams, or perhaps in the whispered tales of his grandfather. The creature's eyes, like pools of pure starlight, met Jasper's. For an eternal moment, they locked gazes, and the hum, the pulsing light, the very fabric of reality, seemed to hold its breath. Then, in a movement that was both swift and languid, the creature turned and vanished back into the anomaly. The hum ceased, the light dimmed, and the night air relaxed its tension. Jasper's chest heaved as he breathed out, the rifle slipping from his grasp. Emily's hand found his, her fingers trembling. "What have we gotten ourselves into, Jasper?" she whispered. He looked down at her, his eyes searching for answers that refused to come. The anomaly loomed before them, a constant reminder that the rules of the world no longer applied. As the stars wheeled above, Jasper knew that their quiet, rural existence was about to be shattered forever. The world was changing, and they were about to be dragged into the abyss. The night wore on, the darkness punctuated only by the faint, pulsing glow of the anomaly. Jasper's mind reeled as he tried to process the events of the evening. The stranger, the creature, the anomaly itself. It was as if the very fabric of reality was unraveling before his eyes. Emily's hand still clutched his, her grip tight with anxiety. "What do we do, Jasper?" she whispered, her voice barely audible over the cricket's gentle hum. He shook his head, the uncertainty heavy in his chest. "I don't know, Emily, but we can't just sit here, waiting for whatever comes next." As if on cue, a low rumble echoed through the night, the ground tremors that had become increasingly frequent in recent weeks. The anomaly pulsed brighter, its light casting an otherworldly glow over the landscape. "We need to get to the root of this," Jasper said, his mind racing. "Find out what's behind it all." Emily's eyes searched his face, her expression a mix of fear and determination. "You mean go into the anomaly?" Jasper nodded, his gut twisting with trepidation. "We have to know, Emily. We can't just sit here, waiting for it to consume us." In the silence that followed, the only sound the distant hum of the anomaly, Jasper knew they had made a decision. They would venture into the unknown, into the very heart of the anomaly, and pray that they emerged with their sanity and their lives intact. As they turned towards the house, the stars above seemed to twinkle with a malevolent glee, as if they, too, awaited the outcome of this desperate gamble. The night air was heavy with foreboding, and Jasper knew that their journey would take them further than they had ever imagined. And yet, with Emily's hand still clinging to his, he felt a spark of determination ignite within him. They would face the unknown, and they would emerge victorious, or so he hoped. The night wore on, the darkness punctuated only by the faint, pulsing glow of the anomaly. Jasper and Emily gathered what little equipment they had, their preparations a mix of uncertainty and determination. As they stood before the anomaly, its light washing over them like a cold, ethereal breeze, Jasper felt the weight of their decision settle upon him. This was it, the point of no return. "Are you ready for this?" he asked, his voice low and even. Emily's eyes locked onto his, her face set with determination. "Let's do this," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. With a deep breath, they stepped forward, the anomaly's pulsing light enveloping them like a shroud. The air seemed to thicken, the sounds of the night growing distant as they crossed the threshold into the unknown. The first sensation was one of disorientation, as if their bodies were being pulled in multiple directions at once. The light around them coalesced into a tunnel, stretching out before them like a gullet of pure energy. Jasper's stomach lurched as they moved forward, the sensation akin to falling through a void. The tunnel's walls pulsed with an otherworldly power, the air vibrating with an energy that seemed to defy the laws of physics. Suddenly, they emerged into a realm unlike any they had ever seen. The sky was a deep, electric blue, and the ground beneath their feet was a glassy, iridescent surface that seemed to shift and writhe like a living thing. In the distance, a structure loomed, its spires and towers twisting upwards like a madman's sculpture. The air was heavy with an otherworldly silence, as if the very fabric of reality was holding its breath in anticipation of what was to come. Jasper's eyes met Emily's, and for a moment, they just stared at each other, the sheer strangeness of their surroundings rendering them mute. Then, with a deep breath, they began to move forward, their footsteps echoing through the stillness as they approached the strange, glowing edifice that seemed to be the heart of the anomaly. As they drew closer to the structure, Jasper's sense of unease grew. The twisting spires seemed to shift and writhe like living tendrils, as if the very fabric of reality was being warped and distorted. The air was heavy with an otherworldly energy, and the silence was oppressive, like a physical weight that pressed down upon them. Emily's hand found his, her grip tight with anxiety. "Jasper, what is this place?" she whispered, her voice barely audible over the heavy silence. He shook his head, his eyes scanning the structure. "I don't know, but I think we're getting close to the heart of the anomaly." As they reached the entrance, a shimmering portal of light coalesced before them. The air seemed to vibrate with energy, and Jasper felt his very being resonate with the power that lay beyond. With a deep breath, they stepped through the portal, and the world around them dissolved into chaos. Colors swirled around them, a kaleidoscope of hues that defied the laws of nature. Sounds assaulted their ears, a cacophony of whispers, screams, and wailing tones that seemed to come from all directions at once. Jasper's vision blurred, his senses overwhelmed by the sheer intensity of the experience. Emily's hand was torn from his grasp, and he stumbled forward, desperate to regain his footing in this maelstrom of sound and color. When his vision cleared, he found himself in a vast, cavernous space. The walls and ceiling lost themselves in darkness, and the air was thick with an otherworldly power. At the center of the room, a figure sat upon a throne, its features shifting and flowing like a liquid. Its eyes, however, were fixed upon Jasper, and he felt the weight of its gaze like a crushing weight. "Welcome, Jasper Wentworth." The being spoke, its voice a symphony of whispers that seemed to emanate from the very fabric of reality. "I have been waiting for you,"